AICs in order to reduce the risk of being subject to SCP-7004. Proceed at your own discretion. Item number 7004. Level 4 Secret. Containment Class Apollyon. Disruption Class Amida. Risk Class Critical. Special Containment Procedures. In order to prevent the further spread of its info-hazardous effects, all information pertaining to SCP-7004 non-essential to continued suppression efforts are to be expunged at the discretion of the Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition. All Foundation operations non-essential to the continued containment of anomalies already in its custody are suspended, with all available personnel to be redirected to supplementing the efforts of SCP-7004 suppression. With this, all Foundation AICs are to be reallocated to information suppression, and the following has been crossed out, with human operators only being used if there are no artificial intelligences available. Should human operators be used for this task, the following measures are authorized to prevent SCP-7004 exposure. First, earplugs. Footnote: ineffective for information suppression, can only be used when at risk of being exposed to auditory vectors of exposure of low to moderate volume. Additionally, due to the nature of earplugs, auditory vectors of exposure cannot be isolated effectively. 2. Amnestics. Footnote: ineffective for prolonged use. Can only be used up to 7 times without causing critical brain damage to the user, and so cannot be applied for long-term SCP-7004 suppression efforts. 3. Scramble goggles. Footnote: ineffective for widespread use. Units modified to combat SCP-7004's visual vectors of exposure are only available at Site 19, and so are impractical for widespread use. Due to previous incidents regarding SCP-7004 exposure to human operators, no human personnel are to be allocated to information suppression efforts. Update 7/22/2021. Due to considerations regarding their quantity, all SCP-7004-1 entities are to be terminated on-site. All petal instances found to be exclaiming words such as native or natives when faced with Foundation operatives are to be prioritized over instances which do not. Update 7/23/2021. On order of O5 Command, the maintenance of the Veil of Secrecy is to be relegated to an Omega level, least priority, objective. Description: SCP-7004 is a Class 10 realization type. Footnote: unlike other mimetic hazards, SCP-7004 does not rely on the definitive knowledge of a word or phrase in order to initialize its effects. Instead, This allows the hazard to spread with greater virulence, as any information pertaining to its concept acts as a vector of exposure. Mimetic infohazard, currently affecting approximately 3,000 9 million 156 million 1 billion people worldwide. When a subject comprehends SCP-7004, they are immediately subject to a SCP-7004 Blossom event. According to information currently gathered by Foundation operatives as of the time of writing, a Blossom event pertains to the following effects: an immediate tearing pain in the subject's abdomen, followed by the violent rupturing of the torso from the inside forces, usually caused by multiple hands or fingers emerging from within the torso. The rapid emergence of 2 to 27 separate individuals from the rupture. Footnote: these individuals have included children as young as 3 months old to 100-year-old adults, as well as one individual that is always a vector removed of the subject, which immediately causes the expiry of the subject and the creation of an SCP-7004-1 instance. The sudden onset of loud screaming from each of the emerged individuals, henceforth referred to as SCP-7004-1 petal instances, usually containing information that serves as vectors for SCP-7004 transmission. Footnote: SCP-7004-1 petal instances have been recorded to speak in multiple different languages from each other. Common phrases said include "where are" vector removed and "we are" vector removed. After activation, they have observed to demonstrate vector removed functions, including vector removed. As of the time of writing, they have also been observed constructing buildings in a haphazard manner through an unknown anomalous means, though a certain minority have also been seen doing activities such as vector removed, consistent with typical vector removed behaviors. The reason for both of these attributes are unknown. Discovery log: SCP-7004 was first discovered on the 15th of July 2021, following several early reports of people with multiple bodies at different locations across the globe, including Salt Lake City, Beijing, Sapporo, and Delhi. Foundation web crawlers initially classified these reports as to be investigated, and a Gamma level 3rd priority subject of interest. On the 16th of July 2021, multiple reports began to surface of additional people bursting apart on the wider internet, with several videos featuring multiple SCP-7004-1 entities being uploaded on platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and TikTok, containing SCP-7004-1 petal vocalizations. These videos provided potent SCP SCP-7004 vectors, causing additional blossom events that would subsequently add to the cycle of transmission. Shortly after, a direct correlation was drawn between the viewing of these videos and the occurrence of blossom events. The Global Occult Coalition began efforts to take down videos related to SCP-7004, which in turn fueled speculation regarding the phenomenon on online forums such as Parawatch. These speculations themselves then provided vectors for SCP-7004, allowing individuals access to information which would then lead them to come to conclusions which would expose them to the effects of SCP-7004. By the 17th of July 2021, approximately 156 million individuals had been subject to blossom events and had transformed into SCP-7004-1 instances. Foundation containment efforts then began around this time, with cooperation channels being opened with the Global Occult Coalition to contain SCP-7004. Several hours after official cooperation began, a general media blackout of official news outlets was implemented. SCP-7004 spread, however, still continued via the internet, exposing approximately 600 million more individuals to blossom events. The containment of SCP-7004 was thereafter elevated to an alpha priority objective, with information blackouts being the primary mode of containment for both Foundation and GOC efforts. The leadership of both organizations then directed their efforts to the temporary restriction of the internet in several countries, which only served to fuel speculation regarding SCP-7004. This, in turn, caused millions of blossom events in countries unaffected by the bans. The amount of individuals exposed to SCP-7004 reached 1 billion on July 20th, 2021, causing the Foundation to escalate the Anomaly's Disruption class to Amida. As of the time of writing, operations to halt the spread of SCP-7004 are still ongoing. Update 7/21/2021. The number of individuals exposed to SCP-7004 has reached 3 billion people. The Global Occult Coalition has declared SCP-7004 a paramount priority. Multiple government unsanctioned bans on the internet have been forcefully enacted by the GOC on several major countries. As of the time of writing, the maintenance of the Veil of Secrecy has been reclassified as an Omega priority objective. Update 7/22/2021. The number of individuals exposed to SCP-7004 has reached 6 billion people. The Foundation has begun to report blossom events among its own staff, slowing down efforts to suppress SCP-7004. Due to the need for staff in suppressing SCP-7004, the responsibility of the maintenance and updating of SCIPnet documents have been turned over to the SCIPnet.aic by the Site-82 staff. Footnote, including this document. response is pending. Help us, please. If anyone can hear, please send someone. We're just vector removed. Vector removed. We never vector removed. Vandalism flagged. Personnel number 676848 has been reported for disciplinary action and banned from making any further edits to this file. Update 7/23/2021. Due to SCP-7004, Site 82 has been declared inoperative. Update 7/24/2021. Due to SCP-7004, Site 57 has been declared inoperative. Due to SCP-7004, Site 34 has been declared inoperative. Site 120 has been declared inoperative. Due to SCP-7004, Site 118 has been declared inoperative. Site 43 has been declared inoperative. Site 17 has been declared inoperative. Update 7/26/2021. Due to SCP-7004, Site 19 has been declared inoperative. Due to SCP-7004, Site 01 has released a distress signal. Our response is pending. Alert! The following events regarding SCP-7004, the Etna Protocol, has been activated on the orders of O5-4. As such, the O5 Council's operations have been suspended, with executive authority being delegated to regional directors and site directors until such a time that central leadership can be re-established. See the relevant auto-transcribed file included below. 16:35:24. The video begins with all 5 attending members of the O5 Council gathered along. The video begins with all 5 attending members of the O5 Council gathered around a table within one of the conference rooms inside Site 01. O5-1, O5-5, and O5-6 are notably gathered at the end of the table closest to the door and are panting with exhaustion. O5-4, directly opposite them, is seen shaking the papers in his hand and shouting in an attempt to express urgency. The words SCP-2000 Ganymede Protocol are seen in bold letters at the top of one of the papers. O5-9 is directly beside him, shaking her head with disapproval as she murmurs a few words in protest. O5-4 turns his head to address O5-9, speaking sternly to her as he quickly glances up at the other council members. After a few seconds, O5-4 raises his hand. He is seen mouthing the words, "All in favor." Most of the present O5 council members are seen raising their hands in agreement. Only O5-9 does not raise her hand. O5-4 nods in grim understanding before turning to the terminal in front of him and typing in a command. As he presses enter, none of the O5 council members move to speak for the next several seconds. O5-1 begins to stand up to speak, but is interrupted by the door behind him opening. All O5 council members turn to look at the door as O5-2 enters the room, bleeding from his mouth and onto the front of his suit. As he staggers into the room, he leans into the nearest person, 05-1, who stands up to help 05-2 stay on his feet. 05-2 is seen coughing up more blood, staining the nearby conference table. As 05-1 leans in to ask about his condition, 05-2 begins to shout with alarm before violently stumbling back. As some of the other council members begin to gather around 05-2, 05-4 is seen attempting to dissuade them from doing so. He tries to cover his ears as he warns his fellow council members, but to no avail. As 05-2's Blossom event continues to progress, he continues to shout, "Cover your ears," to the other council members. Suddenly, 05-2's abdomen begins to open from the inside, with several fingers appearing at the widening wound. A bloody and panting human head is seen emerging from 05-2's abdomen, followed by an arm as it attempts to pull itself out of 05-2. All of the 05 council members move back in shock as 05-2 continues to scream with pain. 05-4 is seen looking on helplessly from the back, still covering his ears as he does so. As the pedal instance continues to emerge from 05-2, the nearby 05-5 is seen coughing up blood, followed by 05-9. 05-6 moves back in shock before doubling over as she also begins to vomit blood on the matted floor. Panicked, 05-1 draws a pistol from the garter of his pants, firing several shots at 05-6 and causing her to fall to the ground, dead. 05-1 and 05-4 are seen momentarily glancing at each other from opposite sides of the room. Suddenly, however, a trail of blood is seen falling from 05-1's lips, which is directly followed by the overseer vomiting more blood on the table. 05-4 is seen shouting to 05-1, and as 05-1 begins to vomit again, he is seen sliding the pistol across the table to 05-4. The words, "Do it," are seen being mouthed by 05-1. With a practiced motion, 05-4 quickly takes the pistol from the table before firing one shot directly at 05-1's head, killing him instantly. As the other overseers continue to convulse and scream in pain, 05-4 is seen freezing for several seconds, staring at the chaos unfolding within the room. As he looks around the room, he points the firearm at another one of the overseers and pulls the trigger again, but the gun is unable to fire. Ahead of him, however, the limp corpse of 05-1 continues to seize, falling to the ground on its own as it presumably continues to undergo its Blossom event. Beside it, the corpse of 05-6 does the same, with several arms already emerging from its as the dying overseers, deftly dodging the reaching hands of another of the petal instances that had emerged from 05-2. Soon after, he runs out of the conference room, disappearing from sight as the door closes behind him. As he does so, several other SCP-7004-1 instances are glimpsed outside. By this time, no more life signs are detected from the overseers within the conference room. A remote terminal is detected to have been accessed by 05-4 shortly after the Etna protocol is activated. New user detected. Welcome, Overseer Autoclef. Check operation _status all _MTF info hazard. Checking. Please wait. MTF ETA-10 See No Evil is inactive. MTF Row 9 Technical Support is inactive. MTF Upsilon 4 Sugar Pill is inactive. Results fully displayed. Enable query blacklisted. Checking. Please wait. MTF Mu7 R Twisted Minds is currently active. Dossier Mu7 Open Dossier. MTF Mu7 R Twisted Minds. Mobile Task Force Mu7 is a specialized experimental task force composed of regular Foundation personnel, given extreme resistance to info-hazardous phenomena via the application of the Sarkic practice of brain twisting. When compared to other mobile task forces, brain twisting allows the user to unconsciously resist info hazards with 99% efficiency, allowing continued operation without the use of specialized equipment. History. Mobile Task Force Mu7 was first created during a specialized training program in 2011, following the acclaimed defection of Karsist Alco to Foundation authorities the year before. During his time in Foundation custody, Alco demonstrated knowledge of several previously unknown Sarkic techniques, with brain twisting being among them. As part of an internal push to incorporate more anomalous techniques into Foundation doctrine, Alco was mandated to teach the practice of brain twisting to two specially chosen Foundation operatives, namely former MTF ETA-10 squad leader Lena Navarra and former squad member Cassandra Mullins. This led to the creation of MTF Mu7 a year later. However, following the December 2014 incident at Site 43, Karsist Alco escaped Foundation custody with several Sarkic anomalies, causing a major containment breach and killing 125 Foundation personnel, following an internal risk review led by the O5 Council. Several experimental task forces, including Mu7, were relegated to auxiliary functions and blacklisted from participating in wider Foundation operations. As of now, Mu7 is currently stationed at the remote containment site 11,000 within the Nazi core SCP-7004 have been removed on express request of O5-4. As of the time of writing, the SCP-7004 document has been made available to Containment Site 11,000 on express request of O5-4. Additionally, an urgent read request was made to the aforementioned site, again on express request of O5-4. Alright, this should be ringing your bells. Hello, I am O5-4, and to my knowledge, I am the last O5 still left alive. You don't know jack shit about anything right now, and if you do, then there goes our last hope to stop this thing. But if you don't, and I'm counting on that, then you deserve an explanation. The world has ended. A mimetic info hazard, SCP-7004, has ended it. And right now, you're the only two people left on Earth that can make sure that we can come back from this. So, my last express request is this. Go to Yellowstone, find SCP-2000, input the numbers 12, 25, 2000 into it, reset the world, save it. Or well, what's fucking left of it. This document will tell you everything you need to know about it. Everything to get you up to speed, everything to prepare for all that it's worth. Before the rest of the council went dark, we did everything we'd need to make sure 2000 comes online once you get there. Ganymede's online now, and from here on out, you've gotten a promotion to level 5, effective immediately. That should give you the credentials you need to start Procedure Lazarus. Congratulations for what it's worth. As you get there, record what you see. The auto-transcribers you've been using for 1100 should come in handy. I want to stay updated 24... Fuck, I need to go. They're here. I can't say anything right now, but good luck. You'll need it. I'll try to do what I can from my end. Godspeed. And the rest is cut off. New update detected. Origin Containment Site 11,000. Display. Update 7/26/2021. A new exploration log has been added to SCP-7004. Due to a lack of specified credentials, this exploration log has been automatically filed as Exploration Log 7004.1. Location: Containment Site 11,000, Nazi Joe National Park Reserve, the Yukon, Canada. Time: 15:34 GMT -8. July 26th, 2021. The exploration log begins with the interior of a prefabricated standard issue Foundation personnel module, with gray painted metal walls reminiscent of shipping containers. One handmade wooden looks like these things work with everything. 05-4, if you're there, you can probably see us now, what we're doing. Navarra turns to face the camera. She is a woman approximately 175 centimeters tall and 35 years of age, with short, shoulder-length black hair and military fatigues. Her face expresses exhaustion as she looks directly at the camera. To whoever's watching, we're MTF Mu-7, currently broadcasting our location from Containment Site 11,000 in the middle of... Navarra looks around the room for several seconds, regarding the interior with a resigned expression. Nowhere. Just as we were assigned. Just as you people wanted us to be. Navarra looks at the camera wordlessly, then down at the presumed holder of the camera. She looks expectantly at the holder. Wait, you're done? Navarra nods exasperatedly at Mullins. Her eyes seem to express a general lack of enthusiasm for what is being done. Responding to Navarra's nod, Mullins lowers the camera, placing it on a desk and moving herself into frame. Mullins is a shorter woman of approximately 160 centimeters tall and 24 years of age. Unlike Navarra, Mullins only wears military camouflage pants with a beige-gray t-shirt. Her long red hair is tied into a bun behind her. She shifts her posture to salute, but her expression still retains her excitement. Mu-7 Agent Cassandra Mullins, reporting for duty, sir. Mullins' eyes move to Navarra as a sudden doubt begins to cross her expression. Or, ma'am. Navarra shrugs, before half-heartedly saluting. She is not looking directly at the camera. Mu-7 Team Leader Agent Lena Navarra, reporting for duty as well. Navarra immediately lowers her hand to discontinue the salute, crossing her arms and leaning on the desk. Mullins is more apprehensive, but eventually lowers her hand after several seconds. I don't know if you can hear us, ma'am or sir, but with all due respect, this order is, plainly speaking, unorthodox. Do we just leave our post? This certainly doesn't look like an official command for transfer. Mullin raises her eyebrow upon hearing Navarra. Her eyes turn to look at her superior officer. In short, sir, we have no assurance of whether this is a real command or not. We did not get much reception out here, and if we did... Navarra cocks her head. Well, in your words, we would not have been considered for this assignment. Navarra looks expectantly at the camera. Her skepticism is seen plainly on her face. Plus, with how low you normally let our provisions get, you really aren't coming back, are you? Or are you just not trying? Mullins' expression shows nervousness and fear. She quickly glances between the camera and Navarra, unsure. Mullins turns to the camera. Sir, I'm sorry, it's just that... As Mullins speaks, Navarra closes her eyes and sighs. Save it, Mullins. I shouldn't have expected an answer. There's no one on the other end. Navarra immediately leaves the frame. The noises of plastic and fabric being moved are heard. Mullins, who is still within the frame, possesses an expression of puzzlement and nervousness. After a few seconds, Navarra re-enters the frame, carrying a standard Foundation issue Molly military backpack with her right hand. The Molly, which is open, is seen containing provisions, including a jug of water, MREs, a thermal blanket, and a winter coat. Navarra turns hesitates as she looks between her superior officer and the camera. Mullins, unsure. Yes, as you ordered. And Mullins responds. Navarra seals her Molly's zipper. Good. Navarra turns to face the camera. Her expression is stern. I don't know if it actually is 05-4 behind all this, or if this is some kind of trick, but I have friends out there, family. Navarra crosses her arms. Even if this isn't an official order, I want to know if this is real. The authorization in the document makes it seem like it is. Navarra sighs. But what I want to know is if this is our only chance at saving everyone we know from this thing. Navarra leaves the frame again and returns with her winter fatigues in her right hand and her helmet with her left. A camera is seen on top of the helmet. She takes off the jacket that she is currently wearing. She looks at Mullins. Put 11,000 on conditional lockdown, Mullins. Mullins looks surprised. We're doing this? Navarra begins to wear her winter fatigues. As she does, she turns her head to look at Mullins. For now, it'll only be me. You stay here. Those doors will stay closed until you say so. Make sure they do until I come back. Mullins nods, but is obviously unsure. She glances at the camera again. Where are you planning to go? The Foundation way station. Try to see if I can establish contact with the outside world that isn't from messy IP net. If anyone's out there, we can always ask for help. Navarra takes notice of Mullins' reluctance, and then nods her head in the direction behind Mullins. What are you waiting for? Go! Mullins' eyes immediately widen in shock, before she salutes to Navarra again. Immediately after, she leaves the frame. And turn off the helmet cam for now. Whoever's watching can... Navarra sighs again as she looks back at the camera. They can watch later. Hurried footsteps are heard beside the camera as Mullins picks up the helmet upon which the camera is situated. As she looks behind the camera, she moves her arm to touch the off switch. The video ends. A new exploration log has been added to SCP-7004. Due to a lack of specified credentials, this exploration log has been automatically filed as Exploration Log 7004.2. Location: Containment Site 11,000, Nazi Chow National Park Reserve, Yukon, Canada. Time: 1:10 GMT-8, July 27th, 2021. The video opens with a shared bedroom of Containment Site 11,000, which contains two closely spaced single-person beds on one side, with two metal lockers placed beside them. Navarra is at the center of the video, sitting at the table upon which the camera has been placed. As soon as the video starts, she withdraws her hands from its on switch. Mullins sits at one of the beds further behind Navarra, rifling through the contents of her Molly. You didn't lie. You didn't lie after all. Navarra shakes her head, crossing her arms as she leans back on the chair. You were right. The world's gone to hell. I've seen so much suffering, so much pain. I asked for help and there were voices on the line. Navarra fixes a smile at the camera, which looks closer to a grimace. She is actively holding back tears. God, the world's ended, and we didn't even know. suppresses a joke. She is evidently attempting to appear stone-faced to the camera, to no avail. My head hurts now, far more than anything I've ever experienced. It's stopping me from remembering anything about what I just heard. But the pain. Navarre is visibly shaking. It's hard to forget that. She tries to compose herself. We're leaving now. Post haste, as you ordered. We're about to put the facility on permanent lockdown. It'll take an army to get inside here once we leave. If 11,001 breaks down while we're gone, well, it's not as if it's gonna destroy the world any more than it's already been destroyed. Navarre crinkles her forehead, her upper lip is quaking. I didn't want to believe you at first, honestly. You told us through the 7004 files that the world went to hell in 2 weeks, so naturally, I called bullshit. There was no way we could have lost it that fast. Navarre shakes her head. No, not we. You. The Foundation. Navarre shrugs. She looks to the side, shaking her head as she does. She glances back at the camera. And I guess, deep inside me, I just didn't want the responsibility. The obligation. Navarre leans forward on the desk. Her face is only about 10 centimeters away from the camera. You people put us here in the middle of nowhere, shut us up where we didn't belong, forgot about what we need, when we could have been so much more useful somewhere else. Just because you decide to train us in something that you yourselves didn't like. In the background, Mullins stops rifling through her Molly's contents. She makes no attempt to look at the direction of Navarre. Navarre grimaces. Now we're your last hope, and I guess that gives me the liberty to say whatever the hell I want now. She looks directly at the camera. Mullins may say otherwise, but I'm not doing this for any of you. I'm doing this for the family I left to go work for you. The family that may still have had a chance at living if you didn't fuck everything up. I'm going to do this reset for them. Rest of you be damned. Navarre stands up quickly, shoving the chair aside as she does. She moves to walk out of the room. Mullins watches wordlessly as Navarre leaves and closes the door behind her. Mullins sighs and looks at the camera from the bed. She rises from the bed wordlessly, then gingerly takes a seat at the desk. Navarre is now at her turn, so, Mullins shrugs uncomfortably, pursing her lips. She doesn't look directly at the camera. I don't really blame any of you for putting us all the way out here, for abandoning us, as Navarre would say. Mullins grimaces as she pauses to think. I understand the stigma. Sarkics in the Foundation haven't had the friendliest history, and you want to keep us at a distance. They're the bad guys, you're not, and we're somewhere in between. I get that. I guess Navarre just doesn't, because she's been around for way longer than I have, but Mullins shrugs and looks directly at the camera. Unlike Navarre, she is further from the camera and seems to be distancing herself as she speaks. If you want us to save the world, I'm okay with that. Navarre didn't give me the details, but I've read the file. These are monsters, bad guys, plain and simple, bursting out of people's bodies and being where they shouldn't be. I get that. They ended the world, and we'll set things right. Don't you worry about Mullins pauses for a second, then immediately shakes her head, quickly gesturing with her hands in a conciliatory manner. I don't mean to order you guys around like that. Just a thought, you know? Mullins chuckles nervously, then stops. Navarra may be doing this for her family, to make sure they'll be alright, but I just want everything to be normal again. I don't want people to die, to blossom, nothing like that. I just want the world to be okay. Mullins looks down. Yeah, I guess so. She pauses for several more seconds before looking back up at the camera, smiling. We'll make sure the world comes through all right, and the Foundation will be with us every step of the way. You have my promise. Mullins leans back on the chair. Well, alright, our bags are packed, and Navarra's probably... Mullins is interrupted by a loud, blaring noise emanating from the speakers of the containment site. The room suddenly takes on a red light. An automated voice speaks out. Permanent lockdown initiated. Facility sealing in 10 minutes. Oh, she's getting ready to leave. Mullins clears her throat. Well, I gotta go now. This is Navarra's helmet too, so I'll need to give this back. Mullins leans over to turn off the camera. At the last second, she looks down at the camera's view. Yeah, bye. The sound of a switch being flipped is heard. The video ends. Location: Robert Campbell Highway, the Yukon, Canada. Time: 15:34 GMT-8, July 28th, 2021. The video opens with a person in winter fatigues, presumed to be team leader Lena Navarra, walking along a stretch of highway. Navarra is carrying a standard Foundation assault rifle in both of her hands, with her molly strapped to her back. A large hill is seen at her left side, obscuring a large part of the camera's view of the horizon, with a large body of water, presumed to be a lake, being present at the side of the video. Navarra proceeds down the highway steadily, before turning to look at the camera as she walks. A distance of about 10 meters separates Navarra from the camera. Is it on? The holder of the camera, presumed to be Agent Cassandra Mullins, makes a thumbs-up gesture with her right hand. Yeah. Navarra nods her head as she looks to the side, continuing to walk as she does so. This is how we'll do it. Check in every 2 days. Take turns so that our helmet cams don't lose batteries. We'll have to assume the cities are dangerous, so let's make sure to avoid them. We don't want to have to make a detour to do a report. The camera bobs as Mullen nods. Affirmative, ma'am. Navarra nods back before turning to look forward again. Keep it in mind, we could be out here for a month, maybe even a few months. It'd be best to conserve battery. Navarra brings her hand, making a few gestures as she continues to speak. So, as a status report, we're coming up on the town of Watson Lake, following the Robert Campbell Highway. We should be within sight of it shortly, once we get past this hill next to us. Navarra gestures to the large hill to the left. If we don't see any 7004-1s in the town, we'll try to take stock and resupply. fill up on provisions. We aren't starving yet, but what we have should only last us for another day. Best be sure. Secondary objective, but also extremely important, find a car. That should shorten our travel time from months to days, lengthen our chances of not starving to death. Navarra begins to turn around a bend of the highway around the large hill. About 15 meters separates her from Mullins, which widens as Mullins stops. She raises her hand to catch Navarra's attention. "Ma'am, hold up. Water break." Navarra nods as she hears Mullins, continuing to slowly walk through the bend. As she does so, Mullins looks down at her winter fatigues to retrieve her water canteen. She takes it from its pocket, removes the cap, and begins to drink. After a few seconds, Mullins sighs with relief and places her water canteen back within its pocket. As she looks up, she sees Navarra standing still at the bend 25 meters away, looking past the hill. "Ma'am." Mullins begins to walk forward, closing the distance between herself and Navarra. "Ma'am, do you see something?" Navarra is unable to remove her gaze from the indeterminate point of interest. She puts up a hand to gesture towards Mullins. "Mullins, get your map." Mullins continues to walk closer, placing her hand on her molly, but not completely removing it from her shoulders. "Why?" Navarra remains tense. "Just do as I say." Mullins, though unsure, begins to remove her molly from her shoulders, placing it at her feet. She slowly opens the backpack zipper, retrieving a laminated paper map of the local area. "Alright, how big is the town of Watson Lake? Does it say?" Mullins takes the laminated paper map into her hands, unfurling it to read its contents. "It's pretty small. Population of about 790 people. Only a relatively few streets in the town proper. Why do you ask?" Mullins momentarily sets the map on the ground to close her molly and sling it around her shoulders. She then takes the map into her hands again. "It's big for the area, definitely, but pretty small. It has a signpost forest, a hospital, a small-ish university campus. Nothing too out of the ordinary." Mullins is still looking down at the map, not pausing to look up as she walks. "No big buildings, nothing tower tall." At the mention of tower tall, Mullins immediately looks up. "What?" Navarra signs for Mullins to walk closer to her. Mullins follows her instruction and turns her head in the direction that Navarra is looking in. "Oh, dear God." As Mullins lifts her head, the video captures a large, twisted collection of poles, all constructed haphazardly together. Some of the poles knot together and meet, while others go in a sideways or diagonal direction. Even from a distance, each of the poles can be seen displaying a multitude of signs, which can be approximated to a number of 100,000. The shortest of the poles reaches up to a height of 40 meters tall, with the tallest approaching approximately 70 meters. At the peaks of some of the poles, multiple figures can be seen moving. "Is that your signpost forest?" forest. Mullins slowly shakes her head in disbelief. It was tiny when we last came through, 3 meters tall at most, and in orderly rows. What is this? Navarra removes her binoculars from around her neck, drawing it up to her eyes to see through them. What do you see? Those are 7004-1s at the top. What? They're building. No materials, not dragging anything up, just building and building and building. No rhyme or reason whatsoever, just multiple hands working on the same post. Hell, even different posts branching out. Dear God. Navarro lowers her binoculars before letting it go and allowing the lanyard tied around her neck to hold it in place. There's no way we're going through that. It's far too risky. Mullins wordlessly looks down at the local map. Ma'am. Navarra turns in the direction of Mullins. I think this is the last town around 4 miles. The rest, even across into British Columbia, are ghost towns. This is our only chance to get food. Navarra winces and sighs, a look of frustration crossing her face. Fuck. Navarra shakes her head slowly, placing both of her hands on her waist as she stops to think. After a few seconds, Navarra lowers her hands from her waist. She looks ahead at the signpost forest before turning to Mullins. We'll have to walk there, and once we get there, we do this quietly. Nightfall's coming soon. It should cover us. You have your night vision goggles ready? The camera bobs up and down as Mullins nods. We still have a few more hours until dark, and by then we should hopefully be there. Mullins nods again. Got it. Navarra nods back and sighs. She looks down at the ground, then at Mullins. Exhaustion is plainly seen on her face. Turn the camera off for now. You'll need the battery. Mullins draws her hand up to touch the helmet camera's off switch. The video ends. Location: Watson Lake, the Yukon, Canada. Time: 1924. July 28th, 2021. The video begins in total darkness. The sound of insects droning is prominent in the background, with a slight breeze whistling through the camera. The sounds of metal and plastic being moved around are heard. Can you see through the camera now, through your goggles? The sounds of the camera bobbing up and down is heard. Yeah, I think. Now turn on the camera's night vision. The sound of a button being pressed is heard. The whine of the camera turning on its night vision capabilities is heard, and the camera's image instantly brightens. Both operatives are in a grassy field overlooking a lake close to a collection of buildings presumed to be the town of Watson Lake. A large collection of thin poles measuring about 400 meters from side to side, presumed to be the signpost forest, dominates the area above the town. is wearing her night vision goggles, is crouching low to the ground, holding her assault rifle in both hands. She is glancing back and forth between looking at the town and Mullins. Oh crap, this feels weird. Navarra lets out a short chuckle. Yeah, having your entire perspective suddenly shift 5 centimeters up from where it should be normally does that. Navarro pauses her gaze on Mullins. You really didn't check whether the NVGs were busted? Mullins shakes her head. I never got to use them, ma'am. We never went through equipment inspection before they deployed us here. Navarra sighs. You still should have checked. Mullins nods slowly. Yeah, but at least the camera's still got night vision, and the goggles aren't totally busted. Can still see through them, just not at eye level. I'm still alright. Navarra sighs again. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. As Navarra speaks, the sound of a large metallic snap is heard throughout the general area. Ahead of the 2 operatives, a pole from the signpost forest falls to the ground, bringing at least 20 more with it. The figures of at least 100 SCP-7004-1 instances, which have been clinging to the poles at varying heights, are seen falling with them. The sounds of far-off screaming are heard. Looks like they're busy with their little project. That's our cue. Mullins nods. Soon after, Navarra begins slowly moving through the grass, holding her firearm in front of her. Mullins follows suit. As they move towards the town, the sounds of screaming get louder and louder. It sounds like they're in pain. Navarra continues through the grass, navigating around the lake. The sounds of water lapping at their feet is heard. They sound so much more like vector removed than I could ever have. Mullins immediately groans in pain, cradling her head. Navarra immediately turns and quickly moves to Mullins. As Mullins continues to groan in pain, she places her right hand on Mullins' shoulder. Stop fucking thinking. You'll make it harder for yourself. The pain is much worse than anything you've ever experienced, I know. So stop thinking about it and shut up. Let your head do the work for you. After a few seconds, Mullins stops groaning. She shakes her head in an effort to regain her faculties. You doing better? Mullins nods. Yeah, pain stopped. Can't remember what I said now. Navarra removes her hand from Mullins' shoulder and holds her firearm close to her chest. She regards Mullin with a look of concern. You good to continue on? Mullins nods her head, but still seems to be in slight pain. Yeah, don't worry about me. Hearing Mullins' response, Navarra turns away and begins moving forward again. Mullins follows suit. As they get closer to the town, the screams get louder before slowly decreasing in volume. There are sounds of heavy metal poles being lifted up and set down. This continues for several minutes as the operatives continue to get closer is a small supermarket with a sign, Watson Lake General Store. Upon seeing the sign, Mullins points to it. That's where we need to go. It should have everything we need. Navarra nods in affirmation, standing up from the tall grass to quickly move across open ground. She presses her back to the nearby wall closest to the supermarket's door, holding her firearm at the ready. Mullins follows suit and does the same. Checking for SCP-7004-1 instances, Navarra continues to stick close to the wall as she turns around the corner, moving to flank the glass door as soon as possible. Mullins takes the other side of the door, holding her firearm at the ready. Inside, through the night vision camera, the interior of the store is nearly intact. Mullins looks over her shoulder as Navarra looks into the glass door. She finds only one far-away SCP-7004-1 instance in the street, about 300 meters away, which takes no notice of them. All of its petal instances are seen wailing, placing each of their arms on their faces as they do so. Hostiles. Mullins shakes her head. One faraway -1, but it doesn't seem to be paying attention. Navarra sighs with relief. She places her hand on the door handle, making entry. Slowly, Navarra pushes on the door handle, pressing on the surface of the door with her shoulder in order to push it open. Her hand holds the assault rifle in front of her, which she then supports with her other hand as she enters. Mullins follows, entering the supermarket and moving past the checkout counter. Inside, several rows of shelves are arrayed from right to left, with the rightmost shelf, which seemed to contain candies, having fallen over. Further into the interior, the sound of plastics being carried around and opened are heard. Hearing it, Navarra gestures to Mullins to check the leftmost row before proceeding down the row furthest to the right. Mullins follows her instruction, proceeding stealthily down the shelf rows as she clears the room. She holds her firearm in front of her, looking down each shelf row as she approaches the sound. At the very end row, Mullins sights an SCP-7004-1 instance, violently opening a box containing a radio. Both of its petal instances, which consist of an approximately 40-year-old male and an approximately 16-year-old female, are using their arms to pull the box's cardboard material apart. Pieces of plastic and bubble wrap are strewn around them. Murmuring is heard. Petal instance, male. Pull, incomprehensible. Harder. In response, the female instance begins to scream with frustrated effort as it attempts to use its arms to pull the box. In response, the female instance begins to scream with frustrated effort as it attempts to use its arms to pull the box. Mullins' breathing is heard getting louder over the camera. Slowly, she is seen putting her hands in one of her pockets. As Mullins does this, the two petal instances continue to pull at opposite sides of the box, slowly tearing the cardboard apart. The male instance continues to exert grunts of effort. The female instance continues draws her hand from her pockets, bringing out a Foundation issue maximum silence suppressor. Slowly, she brings the barrel of her gun down to chest level, crouching down against the shelf to better nestle the rear of the gun between her thighs. The sound of the cardboard bursting apart is heard. The male instance vocalizes its victory. The female instance continues to pant. Shortly after, the metallic sound of the radio being picked up is heard. Pedal instance female. Incomprehensible. Work. Pedal instance male. For. Incomprehensible. Then we go. Soon after, the sound of the radio crackling to life is heard, followed by the sound of it being tuned to different frequencies. As they do this, Mullins begins to apply the silencer to the barrel of the gun, screwing it on top with her right hand. She exhales. Soon after, the sound of a male voice is heard on the radio. The female instance begins to vocalize in a way similar to squealing. Radio. For all. Vector removed. Immediately, Mullins instinctively begins to groan with pain. She brings both of her hands to her ears, sliding down the shelf. The gun falls from between her thighs, falling down on the ground with a quiet metallic sound. Behind her, the SCP-7004-1 incident begins to take notice and can be heard standing up as Mullins continues to writhe in pain beside the shelf. Pedal instance female. I think incomprehensible. Here. Native. Lifeboat. Radio. Proceed to vector removed, where it is safe for all. Mullins begins to scream before holding it back. The SCP-7004-1 instance begins to stand up on its lone pair of legs, proceeding down the shelf row towards Mullins. It is heard lumbering forward. Mullins begins to scream once again before clamping her hand over her mouth to quiet herself. With her other hand, she attempts to crawl forward toward the assault rifle a meter away from her. Behind her, the SCP-7004-1 instance comes to a stop and begins to vocalize. Native. Suddenly, several quiet squeaks of air are heard behind Mullins, followed by several grunts of pain. Taking the chance, Mullins crawls forward again, taking the assault rifle in her hand and turning around to lay on her back, firearm in front. In front of her, the SCP-7004-1 instance is clinging to the shelf behind it, attempting to find a handhold as it bleeds from several gunshot wounds to its side, mostly on the female pedal instance, which is limp as the male instance turns to face Mullins. She points her firearm at it and fires, releasing several other quiet squeaks of air. The bullets enter the SCP-7004-1 male pedal instance's body, causing it to fall to the ground. After several strangled attempts at breathing, it goes limp. Radio. Once again, proceed to vector removed, where it is safe for all. Groaning in pain once again, Mullins crawls forward, past the corner of the shelf. Navarre the other side, signing to the radio as she groans in pain as well. Destroy it! Destroy it! Letting out a grunt of effort, Mullins grabs the radio before bashing it against the floor several times. The noise echoes throughout the interior. Soon after, the radio stops. Fuck. Shaking her head a few times, Navarra gets up, holding her assault rifle to the side. She looks at Mullins. You good? Mullins doesn't respond. She turns her head to the deceased SCP-7004-1 instance, staring at it for a few seconds. They weren't like the other ones. They were. Mullins looks at Navarra. Sane. Navarra cocks her head to the side, pursing her lips. She begins to speak. Suddenly, Navarra's eyes widen. Ah, shit. Without continuing her train of thought, she moves past Mullins, moving to the door, and the glass showing the outside. Pressing her face close to the glass, she looks both ways. Are they? After a few seconds of tense looking, Navarra sighs with relief. Good, they didn't hear anything. Glass must have contained the sound. Mullins nods slowly. Yeah, I guess. Navarra looks at Mullins for a second, then sighs. Hey, don't look at that. Look at me. Navarra removes the helmet from Mullins' head, placing it on the shelf beside them. Those aren't people, alright? They're things. Skips. Navarra lowers her chin as if to wait for an answer. Mullins purses her lips. She is trembling slightly. Stay tough. Don't think about it. Your head will ache again, and that won't be good for anyone. You get me? Mullins tries to avoid Navarra's gaze, instead looking down at the ground. Get a hold of yourself, alright? Mullins raises her head to look at Navarra, then slowly nods. Yeah. Navarra exhales, patting Mullins' shoulders a few times before lowering her hands. Now, let's get to fucking business. Grab the essentials: food, water, winter clothing, space blankets, earplugs, anything we could use for the ride down south. Mullins nods. Okay, how about you? Navarra gestures to the outside. There was a pickup truck out front. Don't know if we're lucky enough to get it open and on the road, but I'll try my fucking damnedest to make sure we do. How are you gonna get it open? Navarra puts her left hand into her pockets before retrieving a long, thick wire. She holds it out for Mullins to see. Rough childhood gives you certain skills. Mullins chuckles softly. Affirmative, ma'am. I'll try to get what I can. Navarra nods back, turning around to exit the store. As she does so, however, she stops in her tracks before turning to the shelf beside her and on the helmet placed upon it. Wait. She takes the helmet from above the shelf, holding it with both hands to fit it atop Mullins' head. Put this on first. Mullins nods. She follows as Navarra commands, placing the helmet on her head and closing the clasps. It's still a bit weird weird seeing stuff from above my head, but I'll get used to it. Navarro chuckles, shaking her head. Yeah. She points to the nearby shelves. Her demeanor shifts to a more formal posture. Now go, we don't have all night. As she says so, Mullins turns around to begin combing through the nearby shelves before coming upon a duffel bag, which she takes off the shelf. She notably avoids looking at the SCP-7004-1 carcass. Over the next few minutes, Mullins begins to fill the duffel bag with canned goods, bottled water, and several other implements, such as a multi-tool and a thermal blanket. Outside, Navarro attempts to open the car door by inserting the wire in between the glass pane and the door. After a few minutes, Mullins takes the duffel bag and goes outside to Navarro. Got what we need. Navarro is preoccupied with the car door and is continuously attempting to open it. Yeah, the camera didn't give you any trouble. Mullins shrugs. Well, it did, but I got there. What did you get? Mullins lifts the duffel bag to look at it. Canned food, space blanket, water. Navarro turns her head to look at Mullins. How much water? I got a few packs, so about 20 bottles. Why? Navarro looks up in thought. If the car holds up, we're going to have to spend probably a week on the road. If it doesn't, well, we'll need lots more water than that. Navarro removes her hand from the window to point at the interior of the store. Stores like these usually sell big jugs of water that's good for long trips. Try looking behind the counter. Mullins nods. Yes, ma'am. In the distance, the sound of metal crashing down can be heard again, followed by anguished screams. Mullins immediately looks in the direction of the screams. To the side of the video feed, Navarro pointedly looks at Mullins. Hey, no distractions, remember? Mullins looks back at Navarro. Go, now. We can't afford to stop. Mullins looks down for a few seconds, turning to scratch her head. Yeah. Mullins lowers the duffel bag to the ground before moving back into the store. Within the store, she begins to look behind the nearby checkout counter, lowering herself to the ground with some difficulty. She attempts to angle her head in order to accommodate her helmet camera before spotting the jugs underneath the counter. Gotcha. As she crouches to retrieve the jugs from beneath the counter, Mullins angles her head sideways in order to reach for them easier. Eventually, as she manages to grab 2 jugs from underneath the counter, her camera hits a small metal box on the shelf behind it. The box makes a loud clang upon hitting the ground, causing Mullins to freeze. Slowly, Mullins lowers her head in an attempt to listen for her surroundings. In the distance, the anguished screaming continues, but does not get closer. Mullins breathes a sigh of relief. She turns with difficulty to the metal box on the ground, using her free hand to hold it upright. As she lifts the metal box to her helmet camera, she sees car keys inside it. Holy crap, jackpot! Excitedly, Mullins grabs the keys from the floor, placing it in one of her pockets. She places either of her hands on 2 of the water jugs, rushing out of the store to meet Navarro, who is still attempting to open the car door. Mullins, instead concentrating on the car window. "Ma'am." As Mullins speaks, Navarro's concentration breaks, causing her hand to slip. As her hand slips, the wire twists, which causes the car alarm to trigger. The noise from the car alarm is loud, blaring across the town as its headlights and taillights begin to flash. In the distance, the sound of anguished screaming are replaced by alarm. The sound of hurried footsteps are heard. Navarro looks at the car door lock in horror, frozen in place as the car alarm continues to blare. Within a few seconds, she turns her head to look at the duffel bag on the ground. Seizing it with speed, she turns to Mullins. "Grab what you can and fucking run, now!" At that, Navarro begins to turn and run, but Mullins, panicked, reaches her hand out to stop her. Wait. Dropping the water jugs, Mullins begins to rifle through her pockets before retrieving the keys. Quickly, she presses it into Navarro's hand. "Get inside, quick." Understanding what to do, Navarro immediately takes the keys and pushes it into the lock before twisting it. The car alarm immediately stops, but the screams of the rapidly incoming SCP-7004-1 instances continue to get louder. Hurriedly, Navarro opens the car door, rushing to seat herself on the driver's side before pushing the keys into the ignition and twisting it to the right. As she does so, the car immediately starts, causing Navarro to look up at Mullins. Her eyes are panicked, but her expression shows determination. "Get the jugs in the back and let's get the fuck out of here." Immediately, Mullins turns to grab both of the water jugs, quickly moving to the back of the pickup truck. Without time to bring the back hatch down, she resorts to using both of her arms to lift the first jug into the truck. As she does so, however, several SCP-7004-1 instances begin to move into the camera's field of view from the adjacent street. Each of the instances move in differing ways, with none of them being able to use their host's legs to run. Instead, each of the instances attempts to cooperate between each pedal instance in order to use their arms to locomote forward, to varying degrees of success. Some instances continue to wave their arms in the air as if to vector removed, screaming as they do so. The words "vector removed" and "vector removed" are heard prominently in their speech, with less than half of the vocalizing instances doing so in English. As Mullins watches the SCP-7004-1 instances continue to run towards her, she immediately screams in pain, causing her to let go of the water jug in her hands. The water jug falls into the cargo bed with a loud sound, which causes the car to shake. As she lets go of the jug, Mullins crumples to the floor, clutching her head in pain. As she falls to the ground, Navarro can be seen exiting the car as well, placing both of her hands on either of her ears in order to block the sound. She runs to Mullins. Crouching down, she removes her hands from her ears to help her companion to her feet. As she does so, however, she screams in pain, but not enough to dissuade her from pulling Mullins up. As both operatives stagger to the front of the car, Navarro ushers Mullins into the driver's seat before closing the door with a bang. At once, the screaming becomes muffled, allowing Mullins to come to her senses. Confused, she looks around for Navarro before hearing the passenger's side door open. "Ma'am," as she speaks, Navarro enters the passenger side, screaming in pain as she holds both of her hands to her ears. Mullins is still confused, attempts to reach over to Navarra. "Ma'am, are you—" Suddenly, the sound of an object slamming against the car is heard, and as Mullins instinctively turns her head to see what is making the sound, she sees 3 human faces, screaming in a muffled manner, banging against the car window with open palms. The word vector remove us are intelligible as they continue to scream. As Mullins looks in horror at the SCP-7004-1 instances, Navarra places her hand on Mullins' arm. As Mullins turns her head to look at Navarra, she mouths the word drive before screaming again as another SCP-7004-1 entity appears at the passenger window, screaming almost purely unintelligible phrases. At this, Mullins reflexively presses the pedal, causing the car to lurch forward. She then jerks the steering wheel hard to the left, causing the car's wheels to emit a loud whining sound as she does so. With the car turning to the left, Mullins instinctively steers it towards the road, jerking it right again as she moves onto the asphalt. As she does so, the loud sound of an impact is heard, immediately followed by loud, anguished screaming. The sound of the other SCP-7004-1 instance's vocalizations become even more panicked as this happens, but she manages to steer safely onto the road before slamming on the pedal again, allowing the car to quickly leave behind the SCP-7004-1 instances. As they leave the town, Navarra lets out a groan. Mullins turns to look at her. As Navarra comes into view, she has crumpled herself into a fetal position, still pressing both of her hands to her ears. She lets out another noise, twitching with pain. "Hey, it's okay, we're okay. We're okay now, ma'am. We left them." Mullins lets out a groan of her own, unconsciously twitching as she attempts to acclimate. God. Mullins turns her head around to look at the rapidly disappearing town. The figures of the SCP-7004-1 instances waving their arms can still be seen. Were they? Don't think about it. Remember what Navarra groans in pain again, causing her to shrink tighter into a fetal position in her seat. Mullins shakes her head. Her hands are shaking as she holds onto the wheel. She groans loudly in pain again. Suddenly, she slams on the brakes, causing the vehicle to whine once more as it comes to a stop. Mullins sits frozen for several seconds. She slowly and shakily removes the clasps, tying her head to her helmet, before taking the helmet from her head entirely. She brings it in her lap to hold it, placing both of her hands on it. "Oh, God." Mullins' voice shakes as she speaks. Her breathing continues to be quick and heavy. Oh, God. Mullins attempts to slow down her breathing. Beside her, Navarra still remains curled up, but is no longer groaning in pain. Her eyes are closed, and her breaths are shallow and quick. "Don't think about it, Cassandra. Don't think about it. Forget it. Forget it all." Mullins clings tighter to the helmet in her lap. "They're monsters. They're monsters. They're nothing but skips. That's all they are." Slowly, Mullins attempts to breathe in Cassandra. Mullins looks to her right at the passenger side. Slowly, a hand shakily moves out into the frame, touching Mullins' arm as it gives her a reassuring squeeze. Mullins' eyes soften before looking down at the helmet camera. A tear runs down her face. Ignore it all. The sound of the switch being flicked is heard. The video ends. New update detected. Display